Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, People Helping People. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. My guest today is Debbie Weiss. Debbie is an author and a podcast host, but she has the same message across all of her platforms. It is, maybe I can. Debbie was a caregiver and is still a caregiver for multiple people in her life. She just dealt with the cards that were handed to her as a dutiful wife and daughter and mom. But then one day she thought, maybe I can do some things that I want to do. Maybe I can do more than what I'm doing. She is honored to be able to take care of the people in her life, as we all should be. But sometimes there's a little bit more out there for us. And I love her message. I love the way she presents it. She's so fun to talk to. And I think this conversation is going to be relatable to many, many people. So I encourage you to share it. If you know somebody that's in that spot of, this is just how it is, this is just how it's going to be forever, encourage them to listen to this, to think and dream and hope for maybe something different. Thanks for being here. Debbie, I'm so excited to talk to you today. I think you have such a powerful message for people, really, people my age. I love your positivity and I love your maybe I can attitude. I think so many people need to hear your message. But you have a story before you had that moment of, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. Tell me your story about that before you got to your maybe I can.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you. So, I think that my general story began when I was 17, and the day after I graduated from high school, my father had a massive stroke. He had just turned 46, which is
Mm,
so crazy now to think about.
yeah.
And he survived, thankfully, but was permanently disabled. And my parents separated and then divorced a few years after the stroke. So I became my father's caregiver for the next 30 years.
Wow.
And he never lived with me, but I was his person who did everything. I had to find him a place to live. Initially, my mom found him a place to live, but after that, because he couldn't live alone, I would find him a place to live. I had to handle all of his finances, his doctor appointments, his driving him places, his everything, everything that we need in life.
Yeah.
And then when my oldest son was born, at the age of 2, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and he later added ADHD and depression and anxiety and a few other mental illness diagnoses. No, so,
N-
no, I don't know how you say that, as a teenager. And then later in life, my husband also suffered from a lot of mental and physical illness. And I became his caregiver as well for the
Wow.
last several years. And that part's a whole story, and it happened after my aha moment. But out of the blue, then separate from all my husband's problems, he was diagnosed with terminal blood cancer.
Oh my goodness.
And from the time he was diagnosed till he passed away, it was 6 months. And that 6 months was very intense, of course. But what made it most intense was honestly his struggle with depression and anxiety. It was not the cancer. So I've had a lot of, caregiving experience,
Yeah.
3 different members over 40 years that I've been caring, for different people. And I found myself in a place around when I turned 50, just overwhelmed,
Yeah.
not ever taking a second for myself, very quick to anger, running like a chicken with their head cut off. I mean, and I think as women, especially, we know what that's like, just even if you are not in a caregiving circumstance, right?
Right.
And even having a family and a job and all of those things. And I was just burnt out. And even though on the outside, I wasn't walking around as a sad or miserable person, the stress was eating me alive.
Yeah.
It really, really was. And I don't know if I realized it, and I know that I had no idea what to do about it.
And those aren't just a few little things. That's a lot of very heavy things that you were dealing with. You said that you once lived with a victim mentality. What were some of the excuses or stories that you told yourself whenever
Oh,
you were feeling that?
yep. I didn't even know that there was a name for it. It took me a while to first hear this term, victim mentality, and then actually be able to wake up and look in the mirror and say, oh,
Yeah.
that's me. So I told myself, well, none of this is my fault. There's nothing that I can do. What was me? Why did I have to become a caregiver to my father in my late teens, early 20s? When my friends were living a carefree life, I was learning the difference between Medicare and Medicaid and
Right.
disability and all these things that, maybe when we're in midlife, we, have to learn more about, but not when you're 20.
Right.
And so in the beginning, when I first in my 20s, I think for a little bit, I felt kind of empowered, like, wow, I'm actually making a difference in my dad's life. And
Yeah.
I feel so good about that. And, people started complimenting me and just making me feel good about what I was doing. And I felt good about what I was doing.
Yeah.
But that quickly turned to, why me? I can't believe this, And my father, this is before caller ID. This is even before answering machines. Yeah. That's how long ago this was. Every time that he thought of something that he needed, he just called me.
Oh,
He
wow.
probably called about 8 times a day.
Oh my
It
goodness.
drove me up a wall. Caller ID was the best thing that ever happened to me
Right.
because, and the answering machine, because at least I could listen to the message. God forbid he needed something, I would get
Right.
back to him. But, if he just realized that the next time I go shopping, he needs chocolate chip cookies, after we just talked 15 minutes ago, I couldn't
Yeah.
handle that. And I was very short tempered with him.
Yeah. Well, you're human. You're a human, and, we can only handle so much. And so I get it. You had legitimate reasons to feel the way that you did, but how did you get to your aha moment? What led you to that?
So when I did turn 50, my friends insisted that we go away for the weekend to celebrate. And we actually went to Bermuda for the weekend.
Wow.
And my dad had passed away a little over a year before I turned
Mm.
50. And my kids were like preteen age. And my husband was still okay to take care of them, but I still felt very unsettled. Like, what's going to happen? I'm not there to orchestrate everything. The minute they get up, it's like, okay, here's what you're doing today. Here's what you're doing. Here's your jobs. Here's where we're
Mhm.
going, all the things. Um, but my friends are wonderful and they insisted that we go away. And from the minute that we met at the airport, the laughter started. I didn't even think about my family members. For the first time, really, in my adult life,
Yeah.
I felt completely unburdened and free.
Wow.
And in that weekend, we once had a conversation that turned a little serious like, okay, what are your hopes and dreams moving forward? And I had none. My hopes and dreams were all about my kids.
Mhm.
I mean, I felt, and here's where the victim mentality kind of comes to play, this is my lot in life. I can't do anything about it. I don't know why it happened to me. This is the way it is. And it's really not so bad. A lot of people have it a lot worse. I live in a nice house. I have a small insurance agency. I have a lot of things going for me. So what am I complaining about? Just
Right.
ride it out. But then something about the number 50 really made me think about my mortality.
Mm.
And my dad lived with so many regrets, and that's all I listened to for
Yeah.
30 years. And my mother always, who is still alive, also has several regrets. And I thought, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person who gets to the end of their life looking back and saying, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any pressing something that I wanted to do, that I'm an artist, or, I never explored this about myself. I was like, I got no idea.
Yeah.
But if I don't try to figure it out, if I don't do something to see how I can really enjoy my life more, then I will regret that.
Yeah.
I will regret not trying.
Absolutely. I said this yesterday on a podcast episode. I said, you will regret the things that you never tried much more than you will regret the things that you tried and failed. So I think that is such a powerful message for so many people to hear, not wanting to, regret. And you have the time to do it. You have the time to try these new things. So what were some of the small steps that you began to take to try to figure out what it is you wanted?
So the first thing once I came back from the trip, and by the way, it wasn't like, the heavens opened up and I heard angels sing.
Right.
I didn't realize what was really happening at the moment.
Mhm.
But when I came back, I decided that I needed to tackle my weight problem. I
Mm.
have had a weight problem from literally the moment that I was born. I've gone up, I've gone down, just like many of us who've had a weight problem. And I've lost a lot and then I've gained it right back.
Right.
And I decided, at 50, yeah, I wanted to look better, but now you start thinking about your mortality and your
Right.
health. So it changes. And what I just decided to do was to approach the weight loss, differently than I had over the past 40 years.
Sure.
And instead of imposing difficult, stringent restrictions on myself
Mhm.
or goals, right? Because usually it'd be, I need to lose 25 pounds in 3 months or it's a failure, or by my
Right.
birthday or the summer, all those things. And at that
Yeah.
point, I needed to lose about 100 pounds.
Mm.
So I'm not talking about an instant, a
Right.
significant amount of weight. But I just said, obviously, I've done this for my entire life and it hasn't worked. What should I do differently? And I said, I got to be a little easier on myself and not expect to make a 180-degree shift overnight.
Right.
So I told myself, I'm going to go to Weight Watchers yet again,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to attend the meetings. I'm not going to worry about what I'm eating, drinking water, exercise, like none of the things. My
Yeah.
only goal is to attend. And that's all I did for a few months. I didn't lose any weight,
Yeah.
but I went every Saturday.
Wow.
And that in itself, it kind of fuels your fire, right? It's like,
Yeah.
this was my goal and I'm doing it.
That's awesome.
Doing it. And then once I had that, kind of down, I added something else small and I just
Yeah.
continued doing that. And about 3.5 years later, now the old me would have been like, how long? 3.5 years? But I also changed my mindset and
Right.
realized this is not, I'm on the diet, I'm off the diet. I'm like, this is it for the rest of my life. I got to figure this out. So, does it make a difference if it takes me 1 year, 2 year, 5 years to lose the weight? Not really. As
No.
long as I'm, moving in the right direction. And sometimes you're not, but you get right back on. And
Right.
so, anyway, in 3.5 years, I lost 90 pounds. And that was about maybe about 8, 9 years ago now.
Mhm.
And I've, for the most part, maintained the weight loss. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've gone up, but I've been able to catch it. So when I saw that, it was like, well, that's interesting. What
Mhm.
else can I apply this framework to, really?
Sure.
And that's how it started. And then I started listening to podcasts. I wasn't at all into personal development. I thought it was woo woo. It wasn't as mainstream as it is.
Right.
I consider mainstream now. Maybe that's just because I'm in it. But, and so it was also my first introduction to mindset. I
Yeah.
didn't realize what I had done. I don't know where I got the idea to just, slowly make some changes.
Mhm.
It just, came to me. And so I wound up taking a course on mindset and really understanding where else I could apply it to my life.
That's awesome. So how did you get to the point of writing your book?
Oh, goodness. Well, I never wanted to write a book. Let me just say
That's
that.
what everybody says.
I never did. I
Yeah.
mean, I graduated from college with a degree in accounting. I love math. I don't I don't love I didn't think I enjoyed writing.
Right.
Let me
Right.
say that. But here's kind of with this mindset shift, what I had begun to learn was that I was discovering things about myself
Yeah.
by facing my fears. And by I was always the person, no matter if it was a ridiculous question like, do you want to try this food? Or do you want to learn to crochet? I'd be like, nope, I don't do that. That was always my first answer. Nope. Because I was very happy living in my little box of comfort.
Yeah. So many people are.
So many people are, and
Yeah.
for sure, that was me. Like, why rock the boat? Like you said earlier, what could happen? I could try that and I could be awful. I could embarrass myself.
Mhm.
I could fail. All of the things that you tell yourself, but we never tell ourselves, what about the flip side?
Right. What if it
What if,
worked?
what if it works?
Yeah.
And so I had been in a volunteer position in an organization for many years. And I was slotted to be president, but I was never going to be president because the president had to get up twice a year and give a speech. And
Mm.
I was not doing that.
Right.
And so when I was vice president, I made it perfectly clear, nope, never going to be president. And when the time came to like really say yes or no, in the end, I said yes, because at that point, I realized this is going to be something I regret. All
Right.
of the things I was worried about, besides the public speaking, what if I can't run the meeting? What if I had all these fears. And I thought, I am always going to wonder, what if I could have done it?
Yeah.
What would have happened if I actually was good at it?
Mm.
But I'll never know if I don't try.
Yeah.
And so I'm giving you a very long answer, but there's a
No,
reason.
that's good. I'm glad.
So I go to give my first speech. I mean, literally having a heart attack. No, no saliva in my mouth, my
Right.
hands visibly shaking. And I give the speech. And as I come to a part, I talk about my father again, who had passed away at that point, and I got emotional. And all the times I practiced, that never happened. But standing up there in front of people, thinking about what I was saying, and I looked out in the audience, and everyone was looking at me. They weren't on their phones. They
Right.
weren't thumbing through papers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I saw the emotion in their eyes. They felt what I was feeling and what I was saying.
Wow.
And it was so powerful that I realized that I could affect people in that way and maybe deliver a message that they would find meaningful,
Yeah.
that it turned into the thing I most feared into the thing I wanted to do the most.
Wow.
And because of that, this long answer is then I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to share this message that I'm sharing with you. How do I do it? How do I reach people? And so that's where the book came into play. And
That.
I thought, I can't write a book. That's another thing. Like, write a book. What do you do? Open up a blank notebook and just start writing my book? And I had no idea. I was listening to a podcast, heard a woman being interviewed, and she helped first time authors get their stories out there.
Wow.
I really resonated with her. I said, I was meant to listen to her. I contacted her, really loved her, and she was just launching a small group of first
Oh,
time.
wow.
And I was about to sign up, and my husband was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, gosh.
And I was seeing a therapist at the time,
Yeah.
and I said to the therapist, obviously, I'm not going to sign up for this now. I don't know what the future holds and what my life will look like. And, you know, it's so selfish. And what if I can't show up every week to the group, or there's homework and I don't do the homework? And my therapist said, who cares?
Wow.
And she said, I think this is exactly what you need,
Mm.
because you're going to need something separate just for you,
Yeah.
kind of like your little escape.
Mm-hmm.
And she was right.
Wow. Now, I read that you were on the Kelly Clarkson Show with
I
your
was.
book. Tell me about that. That is so cool.
It was very exciting. I was on the Kelly Clarkson Show. At the end of every show, she does a segment called, I think it's like What I'm Liking Now. And so I was not in the studio. I
Right.
was at home in this room right now.
Yeah.
And I had a video interview with her, and it was great. And she was wonderful. And it was a great
Awesome.
experience. And it was actually 2 years ago now, because it was in November, because November is National Family Caregiver Month. And
Wow.
that's why I was on the show.
That's awesome. Now tell me what the sprinkle effect means. How can people apply that to their lives?
So the first book that I wrote was my memoir called On
Mhm.
Second Thought, Maybe I Can.
Right.
And I learned that I had to make a decision. Well, what kind of book am I writing? What genre? I didn't know. What's the difference between self-help and memoir and biography and all the things?
Right.
So I decided, okay, it's a memoir. There is no advice in it. It's just stories that tell an overall inspirational story. But then people said, well, that's great, but what did you do after you turned 50? Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
And so The Sprinkle Effect is my second book,
Yeah.
which each chapter is something else to sprinkle, something small that you can sprinkle into your life
Wow.
to change your life. And so each chapter, the sprinkles are action, belief, resilience, adaptability, and curiosity, those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
I love
So each
that.
chapter tells like my own personal spin on that sprinkle, and some helpful hints. And at the end, each chapter has exercises for you to complete so that you can figure out how to incorporate that sprinkle into your own life.
Yeah, I just think you have such a great message. I'm so excited to be hearing it from you, and I'm excited for people to hear this because I just so many people need to hear what you are saying right now. Maybe you can. Maybe you can make those small steps. So not only do you have your books and all the things, you also have a podcast.
I do.
And maybe I can podcast. So tell me about your podcast.
So I've been doing my podcast for about 2.5 years now.
Wow.
And I have actually gone through, and I'm sure as a fellow podcast host, you can understand, I've gone through peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And I have recently, over the last 6 months, I turned it into a solo podcast.
Yeah.
I love I love listening to other people.
Uh-huh.
I was finding scheduling and interviewing stressful
Yeah.
when I had so many other things going on in my
Oh
life.
yeah.
But I feel very guilty about that. And finally, I just had to let it go.
Yeah.
I said, either I do this because I enjoy it, because if I'm not enjoying it, then
Right. What are
that'll
you
come
doing?
through. And what's the point?
Yeah.
And so now, like I said, for the last 6 months, I primarily just talk about something that's happening or I've been thinking about personally that week,
Mm.
which just allows me to keep it current and genuine.
So for any woman that's listening who, and I know there's so many who are taking care of everybody else, who are not, who are putting themselves last. Sometimes that's just how life is. Like you said, you had all these people that needed you. And sometimes it just becomes our norm. That's just what we do. But what advice would you give to a woman listening right now who, yes, maybe she has a lot on her plate, but what kind of things could she do for herself, for some self-care maybe, or to reconnect with who she is and what she wants to do?
I think you have to be honest with yourself, because is it really that we have, I would say the biggest excuse is no time,
Yeah.
right? I don't have any time because I'm so busy doing all the things. But you have to make it a priority to make the time.
Yeah.
If you were honest with yourself and really looked at how much you're binge watching something on TV, scrolling through your phone,
Mm.
checking your email throughout the day, all of the things that you do, you can find the time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Or you could wake up 15 minutes early,
Right.
right? You could, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I think
Mm.
one thing that I didn't share, if it's okay, I would like to, is
Absolutely.
something that was really pivotal for me
Mhm.
was when I learned of this formula called E plus R equals O from Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles, which
Mm.
means event plus response equals outcome. So something happens, my father has a stroke,
Right.
plus my response equals how it affects me.
Yeah.
But I was not thinking there was an R. I was just thinking my father had a stroke, the outcome stinks,
Right.
right? Because I wasn't taking responsibility. Life happens to all of us, and it's
Mhm.
different, and it's different in different seasons, and certainly sometimes are much more challenging than others. But even so, you still have control over that R.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting around saying, there's nothing I can do, my life is spinning out of control, all of the excuses, just like exactly as I used to make, you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, well, wait a second. Is that
Yeah.
the whole truth? What could I be doing differently?
Right.
And self-care isn't just taking a bath or getting a massage. One of the areas of self-care that really I needed to work on was saying no and setting
Right.
boundaries.
That's a hard one. That is a hard one, especially as a mom and a wife and a woman who we take care of everybody. And so that's a hard one for us to do. What do you think out of all the things that you've been through and your aha moments and your books and all the things that you've done, what is the maybe not what is one big mindset shift that you've had to change besides learning to say no, besides setting those boundaries? What's another big mindset shift that you've had for you?
I think it is what I just shared. I think it
Yeah.
is that I am responsible for my own life.
Yeah.
That's it. No excuses.
Yeah.
Not my spouse, not my kids, not all the circumstances, my job, none of that. I am responsible. I decide how I live my life.
Yeah. I love that. I think this is just so good. What have I not asked you about that you wanna tell me about?
The funny thing is, it's simple, right? Like
Right.
I almost felt like, well, what am I telling people? Why are people going to listen to me? And then I think to myself, well, I consider myself halfway intelligent. I made it into my 50s, not realizing there was another way.
Right. Right.
And so there has to be other women out there
Yeah.
who are where I was.
Absolutely there are. Absolutely there are.
Yep. So regardless of your struggles, your money, your age, when people say you're too old, I was in some writers group or something after my first book. I don't even remember what it was. I am 62. I was the youngest. People
Wow.
were in their 80s.
That is awesome.
You're
I
breathing.
love it.
You can do it.
Oh my goodness. I love that. How inspiring.
It was.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Well, I will make sure and have your website and then are your books available on your website or is
Yes.
it on Amazon? Okay. I'll have all your links ready for everybody and your podcast because I want to point people to that too. I think it's so encouraging. Well, this has been lovely, Debbie. I'm so glad I got to talk to you.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you
Thank
so much. It
you.
was great
Okay.
chatting with you.
All right. You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.